I stared at the text message on Derek's phone, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through years of lies. 3 years of anniversary dinners missed because of urgent business meetings. 3 years of lonely nights while he was networking with clients. All of it, every single excuse, led to one name, Camilla. My name is Anne, and after 12 years of marriage, I just discovered my husband's been living a double life. Anne, you okay in there? Caitlin's voice carried through the bathroom door. I quickly wiped my tears, tucking Derek's phone back into his jacket pocket hanging on the door. I'm fine, I called back, splashing cold water on my face. I'd borrowed his phone to call the caterer when mine died. Instead, I found hundreds of messages that turned my world upside down. Opening the door, I found Caitlin leaning against the wall, concern etched across her face. You don't look fine. You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse, I said, leading her to the kitchen where Derek couldn't hear us from his home office. I just found out why Derek's been working late every Thursday for the past 3 years. Caitlin's eyes widened as I showed her the screenshots I'd taken. That bastard, she whispered, scrolling through message after message. With his junior associate? How cliché can you get? I grabbed a bottle of wine from the rack, not bothering with glasses. You know what the worst part is? This Thursday is our anniversary. Again. And guess what meeting he can't reschedule? Oh, honey. Caitlin reached for my hand, but I pulled away. No, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I don't want pity. I want revenge. And he's been making me feel worthless for years, Kate. Like I'm not important enough to remember our anniversary, not successful enough to attend his fancy work functions, not interesting enough to spend time with anymore. I took another swig from the bottle. But I'm done feeling small. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek upstairs. Can you keep it down? Important client call. I showed Caitlin the message, and something inside me snapped. You know what? Let's give him a client meeting he'll never forget. What are you thinking? I pulled out my laptop, opening my calendar. Remember that presentation software Derek's company uses? The one he's always bragging about. Caitlin nodded slowly, a smile spreading across her face. The one you helped him learn to use? Exactly. I started typing furiously. This Thursday, we're throwing a party, a big one. I'll tell Derek it's for impressing potential clients, but really, I pulled up the screenshots again. It's going to be the most memorable anniversary party of his life. And are you sure about this? It could get ugly. I looked at the wedding photo hanging on our kitchen wall. Young, hopeful me in white, Derek promising forever. Ugly happened the moment he started sleeping with his associate. This? I gestured to my laptop. This is justice. My phone buzzed again. Derek. Coming down for coffee. Everything okay? Perfect timing, I muttered, quickly closing the laptop. Watch and learn. Derek appeared in the doorway, his classic charming smile in place. Ladies, you're being a bit loud for a Tuesday afternoon. I met his eyes, matching his smile with one of my own. Sorry, honey, just excited about an idea I had. How would you feel about hosting a client appreciation event this Thursday? Could be huge for your firm. His smile faltered slightly. This Thursday, I have a meeting, I know, I cut in smoothly, but this could be career-changing. I've already started planning. Caitlin's helping with the guest list. He looked between us, clearly torn between his meeting and the potential business opportunity. Finally, he nodded. Okay, you've got my attention. Tell me more over dinner? Of course, I said sweetly. I'll make your favorite. After he left, Caitlin whistled low. Damn, girl, I didn't know you had it in you. I picked up my laptop again, determination replacing the hurt in my chest. Neither did he. That's his mistake. I opened a new document and started typing. Anniversary party guest list. first name? I asked Caitlin, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Camilla, she replied, reading over my shoulder. Don't worry, I know exactly how to get her there without raising suspicion. For the first time that day, I felt powerful, in control. Perfect, I said, adding the name. Let's give them an anniversary they'll never forget. The next 2 days were a blur of preparations. I moved through our house like a ghost, setting up the perfect trap while playing the role of devoted wife. Every smile Derek gave me now felt like a knife twist, but I kept my composure. The caterers confirmed, Caitlin said, sprawled across my couch while I sorted through photos on my laptop. And I got the tech guy to set up the presentation system early Thursday morning. Derek won't suspect a thing. Perfect. I clicked through more photos from Derek's phone, the ones I'd retrieved using his cloud backup. Look at this one, last Christmas when he said he was stuck at the airport. Caitlin leaned over. Is that Paris? Yep, with Camilla. I added it to my presentation folder, right when I was having Christmas dinner alone with his parents, making excuses for why he couldn't make it. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. That'll be Edward, I said, closing the laptop. My brother had driven 3 hours after I called him crying the night before. I opened the door to find him holding a bottle of whiskey and wearing his signature Big Brother's here to fix it expression. Show me what we're working with, he said, pulling me into a hug. We gathered around the kitchen island where I'd spread out my party plans. Edward whistled when he saw the guest list. You invited his entire firm? And all our neighbors, Caitlin added, plus his family. Anne, Edward said carefully, are you sure about this? There are other ways to handle— Like what? I interrupted, pouring 3 glasses of whiskey. Quiet divorce? Private confrontation? Let him paint me as the jealous, paranoid wife? I shook my head. He chose to humiliate me for years. Now he gets to experience it firsthand. My phone buzzed. Derek again. Coming home early. Dinner? Watch this, I told them, typing back. Perfect timing. Need your opinion on the client presentation. On my way. Love you. Edward made a disgusted noise. The nerve of this guy. Quick, I said, gathering up the evidence. Ed, hide upstairs. Kate, stay here and help me look busy with party planning, but nothing suspicious. 20 minutes later, Derek walked in to find Caitlin and me, surrounded by catering menus and venue layouts. I'd strategically placed a wedding photo nearby, one where his arm was around Camilla at a company event. He didn't even notice it. This looks intense, he said, kissing my cheek. Need any help? Actually, yes. I pulled out a seating chart. I'm thinking of mixing clients with colleagues, more networking opportunities. What do you think about putting your junior associates at the main tables? He stiffened slightly. Maybe keep them separate. Hierarchy, you know? Oh? I kept my voice innocent. But Camilla did such a great job at the last event. I was thinking she could sit at your table. No, he said too quickly. I mean, let's keep it traditional. Partners at the main table. Whatever you think best, honey. I smiled, watching him squirm. By the way, I sent her an invitation already. Hope that's okay? The color drained from his face. You what? For the client event, I said slowly. Is there a problem? No, no problem. He loosened his tie. I should handle the staff invitations myself. Too late, Caitlin chimed in cheerfully. We sent them all out this morning. Derek excused himself to make a phone call, practically running upstairs. Through the ceiling, we could hear his muffled, urgent whispers. Edward crept down the back stairs, grinning. I heard everything. He's panicking. Good, I said, pulling out my phone to check my special email account. Sure enough, there was a message from Camilla. Received the invitation. Looking forward to Thursday's event. She took the bait, I told them, showing them the email. Now we just need to keep Derek off balance until Thursday. Anne, Edward said, putting his hand on my shoulder. I know you're hurt, but are you ready for what comes after? This will change everything. I looked at the wedding photo again, remembering how happy I'd been that day, how much I'd trusted Derek, how completely he'd betrayed that trust. Everything already changed, I said quietly. He just doesn't know it yet. Caitlin raised her glass. To Thursday, then. To Thursday, Edward and I echoed. Upstairs, Derek was still on the phone, probably trying to damage control a situation he couldn't possibly understand yet. Let him try. In less than 48 hours, his perfectly constructed house of lies would come crashing down, and I would be there, ready to film every second of it. Thursday evening arrived with perfect timing. The venue, an upscale restaurant's private event space, buzzed with energy as guests filtered in. I stood at the entrance, greeting everyone with practiced grace, while Derek worked the room, his confidence growing with each handshake. "You look stunning," Caitlin whispered, appearing beside me in a sleek black dress. "How are you holding up?" "Like I'm about to throw up," I admitted, maintaining my smile as I waved to another guest. "Is everything set up?" "Edward's running final checks on the presentation system now. Your brother's thorough. I'll give him that." I watched Derek charm a group of senior partners, his wedding ring catching the light. "Has she arrived yet?" "No sign of—" Caitlin stopped mid-sentence. "Wait, there she is." Camilla stood in the doorway, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I saw uncertainty flash across her face. "Camilla," I called out, walking over to greet her. "I'm so glad you could make it." She hesitated before accepting my hug. "Thank you for inviting me, Miss Anne. The venue looks amazing." "Oh, this?" I gestured around. "Just a little something to celebrate relationships." I emphasized the last word slightly, watching her squirm. "Derek's over there with the partners. I'm sure he'd love to say hello." As Camilla made her way across the room, I saw Derek's face pale slightly before his professional mask slipped back into place. He greeted her with a careful distance, his eyes darting nervously to me. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked, sliding up beside him. "You look tense." "Fine," he said through gritted teeth. "Just surprised by some of the guest choices." I touched his arm. "Well, it is an anniversary after all." "What?" His head snapped toward me. "The firm's anniversary," I clarified innocently. 15 years, right? That's worth celebrating." Relief flooded his features. "Right, of course. The firm's anniversary." Edward appeared, nodding subtly. Everything was ready. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, tapping my glass. "If I could have your attention, please." The room quieted as guests turned to face me. Derek moved to take the spotlight, but I stepped forward first. "Thank you all for coming tonight. As many of you know, my husband Derek has always been dedicated to his work. Sometimes a bit too dedicated." Scattered laughs from the crowd. "Tonight, I wanted to share something special with all of you. A presentation about commitment, loyalty, and truth." Derek's smile froze. "Anne, maybe we should—" "Please, honey," I cut him off sweetly. "I worked so hard on this. You wouldn't want to disappoint me again." The lights dimmed, and the first slide appeared on the massive screen. Our wedding photo. "12 years ago," I began, "I made a commitment to love and honor one man, to trust him completely." Click. A photo of Derek and Camilla in Paris. "Unfortunately, some commitments aren't mutual." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Camilla's face went white. Derek lunged for the podium, but Edward stepped smoothly in his way. Now," Edward said quietly. "Let her finish." Click. Screenshots of text messages. Click. Hotel receipts. Click. More photos, each one damning, each one stripping away Derek's carefully constructed facade. 3 years of lies, I continued, my voice steady. 3 years of missed anniversaries. Our real anniversary, by the way, which is today, while he celebrated other relationships. I turned to face Derek directly. You told me I was paranoid, insecure, that I was imagining things. Well, honey, was I imagining this? The final slide. A video of Derek and Camilla entering a hotel last week, date stamp clearly visible. Silence fell over the room. Camilla burst into tears and ran out. Several of Derek's partners were shaking their heads, while others whispered furiously among themselves. "Anne," Derek started, his voice shaking. "I can explain." "No need," I interrupted. "I think the evidence speaks for itself." I raised my glass one final time. To anniversaries, everyone. May they be celebrated with honesty. The crowd parted as I walked toward the exit, head held high. Behind me, I could hear the chaos erupting, accusations, questions, Derek's increasingly desperate attempts to control the situation. Edward caught up with me at the door. "Need company?" I shook my head, finally letting tears fall. "I need to do this part alone. Call me if you need anything," he said, hugging me tight. "And Anne, I'm proud of you." As I stepped into the cool night air, I heard Derek calling my name, but for the first time in years, I didn't turn around. I didn't need to anymore. The truth was finally out, and I was free. I made it halfway down the block before my phone started exploding with notifications, messages from guests, missed calls from Derek, and surprisingly, a text from Scarlett, our neighbor of 10 years. "I'm outside your house with wine. Come home when you're ready." I hadn't expected allies beyond my inner circle. The realization that others might support me made my hands shake as I called an Uber. 20 minutes later, I found Scarlett sitting on my porch steps, 2 bottles of red wine beside her. "That was quite a show," she said, standing to hug me. "You left early," I noted, unlocking the door. "Right after you did. Figured you might need a friend." She followed me inside. Plus, I couldn't stand watching Derek try to charm his way out of this one. He's done that too many times already. I stopped halfway to the kitchen. "What do you mean?" Scarlett sighed, setting the wine on the counter. "Remember Lisa from book club? The one who suddenly stopped coming 2 years ago?" "No," I whispered, realization dawning. "Yes, she told me, but made me promise not to say anything. Said she felt too ashamed for letting him flirt with her at the Christmas party." Scarlett started opening drawers, looking for a corkscrew. "Left drawer," I said automatically. "Thanks. Anyway, she's not the only one. Derek's reputation was well known in the neighborhood. We just didn't know how to tell you." My phone buzzed again. "Derek, please come home. We need to talk." I showed Scarlett the message. "This isn't home anymore," I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. "Good," she replied, pouring generous glasses of wine. "Because he doesn't deserve." The doorbell interrupted her. Through the frosted glass, I could see Derek's silhouette. "Anne," he called out. "I know you're in there. Your car's outside." Scarlett grabbed my arm. "You don't have to answer." "Yes, I do," I said, squaring my shoulders. "This is my house, too. I'm not hiding." I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Derek looked disheveled, his tie loose, hair messed up from running his hands through it. "Baby, please," he started. "What happened tonight? I can explain everything." "Can you explain Paris at Christmas?" I asked calmly. "Or Lisa from book club?" He flinched at Lisa's name. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how I know." I cut him off. "What matters is that you're not coming in. Not tonight. Not ever again. This is my house." "Actually," Scarlett called from behind me, "it's Anne's house. Remember? You insisted on putting it in her name only because of some tax thing with your business." Derek's face darkened. "This doesn't concern you, Scarlett." Like hell it doesn't, she shot back. We've all watched you gaslight Anne for years. Not anymore. My phone buzzed again. Edward this time. Police are on standby if you need them. Just say the word. I showed Derek the message. Leave now, or I call them. You wouldn't, he scoffed, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Try me. I held up my phone. I have evidence of financial fraud too, by the way. All those business expenses you've been claiming. Pretty sure the IRS would love to see where that money really went. He stepped back, finally seeming to realize his charm wouldn't work this time. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I started closing the door. Oh, and Derek, happy anniversary. The door clicked shut. I waited until his footsteps faded before sliding down to sit on the floor, my whole body shaking. Scarlett sat beside me, offering my wine glass. You did good, girl. Real good. My phone lit up with a new message. From Camilla this time. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was your anniversary. I didn't know a lot of things. Should I respond? I asked Scarlett. Hell no. Let her stew in it. She clinked her glass against mine. Tonight's about you. The doorbell rang again, but this time it was Caitlin and Edward carrying takeout bags. Thought you might need reinforcements, Caitlin said, setting up containers of Chinese food on the coffee table. Also, you might want to check Facebook. The video's going viral in your social circle. Edward pulled out his phone, showing me the comments. Friends, colleagues, even Derek's family members expressing shock and support. Mom says she always knew something was off about him, Edward reported. She's on her way here tomorrow. I looked around at these people, my real family, gathered in my living room, ready to help me rebuild. The fear and uncertainty were still there, but something else was growing stronger. Hope. So, Scarlett said, raising her glass, what's next for the newly single Anne? For the first time that night, I smiled genuinely. I have no idea, but I can't wait to find out. The next morning, I woke to the sound of someone pounding on my front door. Caitlin, who'd stayed over on the couch, was already up and peering through the window. It's Derek's mother, she whispered, and she looks pissed. I groaned, checking my phone. 27 missed calls from Derek, 15 from his sister, and one very long text from his mother demanding explanations. Let her in, I said, pulling on a robe. Might as well face the music. Margaret burst through the door the moment Caitlin opened it, her perfectly styled hair at odds with her wild expression. Anne, how could you humiliate our family like this? In public, no less. I calmly walked to the kitchen and started making coffee. Would you like a cup, Margaret? We should talk. Talk? After what you did? She followed me, her heels clicking against the hardwood. Derek told me everything. How you manipulated him, set him up, embarrassed him in front of his entire firm. Did he tell you about Paris? I asked, measuring coffee grounds. Or about missing Christmas to be with his girlfriend? He said you're paranoid, seeing things that aren't. I slid my phone across the counter, opened to the photo gallery. Look, Margaret's words died as she scrolled through the evidence. Her hands started shaking when she reached the hotel receipts. That's... She swallowed hard. That's the weekend he said he was helping us move furniture. Keep scrolling, I said gently. She did, her face growing paler with each swipe. When she finally looked up, tears were streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I had no idea. He's my son. I just assumed. I know, I handed her a tissue. He's very good at making people believe his version of reality. The front door opened again. This time it was my mother, arriving earlier than expected. She took one look at Margaret crying in my kitchen and marched straight over. Maggie, my mom said firmly, I think it's time we had a long overdue conversation about your son. While our mothers talked in hushed voices, Caitlin helped me pack up Derek's things. We'd barely started when my phone rang. Derek's law firm. Anne speaking. Mrs. Anne, a formal voice said. This is Patricia from the Partners Board. We need to discuss yesterday's events. Could you come in this afternoon? I looked at Caitlin, who nodded encouragingly. What time? 2 p.m. And Anne, bring copies of everything you have. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Edward arrived with breakfast and helped sort through Derek's belongings. Our mothers emerged from their talk looking drained but united. I'm calling his father, Margaret announced. He needs to know everything. At 1:45, I walked into Derek's law firm, escorted by Edward, who insisted on coming as support. The receptionist led us straight to the conference room, where 5 partners sat waiting. Thank you for coming, Patricia said, gesturing for me to sit. We've spent the morning reviewing the situation. If this is about damage control, I started, but she held up her hand. This is about justice, she corrected. We've suspended Derek pending investigation. What you revealed goes beyond infidelity. There are serious ethical violations here. Using firm resources for personal affairs, falsifying expense reports. I have the receipts, I said, pulling out a folder. All of them. 2 hours later, I emerged from the firm with a settlement offer that made my head spin. Derek would be forced to resign, and in exchange for my cooperation with their internal investigation, they'd ensure I was well compensated. Holy shit, Edward whispered as we left. Did they really offer you that much? They're terrified I'll sue for emotional damages, I explained. Plus, apparently, I'm not the first wife this has happened to at the firm. Just the first one with proof. My phone buzzed. Derek again. They're making me resign. Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. I showed Edward the message. Should I respond? Nah, he said, grinning. Let him sweat. Want to grab a drink? Celebrate your newfound wealth? Actually, I said, I need to do something first. 20 minutes later, I walked into my favorite real estate agent's office. Anne, Sarah greeted me warmly. What brings you in? I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. I'd like to list my house. It's time for a fresh start. Of course, she said, pulling out forms. Any idea where you'd like to move? I thought about all the dreams I'd put on hold for Derek. The beach house I'd always wanted, the small business I'd dreamed of starting. Somewhere new, I said firmly, somewhere entirely mine. For the first time since this all began, I felt truly excited about the future. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. It was freedom. 1 week after the party, I sat in my lawyer's office, signing the final divorce papers. Derek hadn't contested anything. The evidence I had was too damaging to his career for him to risk a court battle. Congratulations, my lawyer said, sliding the papers into a folder. You're officially a free woman. As I walked out of the office, my phone lit up with a message from Camilla. Can we meet? Please, I need to tell you something important. I showed the message to Caitlin, who was waiting in the lobby. What do you think? Could be a trap, she said, but then paused. Or could be something you need to hear. An hour later, I sat across from Camilla at a coffee shop downtown. She looked different, smaller somehow, without Derek's influence looming over her. I'm pregnant, she blurted out before I could even speak. The words hit me like a physical blow. Does Derek know? She shook her head. I found out 2 days ago. I haven't told him yet. Her hands trembled as she clutched her coffee cup. I thought you should know first. Why? Because, she took a shaky breath, I've watched him destroy one family already. I won't let him do it to another. I sat back, studying her face. What are you saying? I'm moving back home to Arizona. My sister lives there. She pulled out an ultrasound photo, but didn't hand it to me. He doesn't get to ruin this, too. My phone buzzed, Derek calling again. I declined it, just as I had every day this week. He's been trying to convince me to tell everyone I manipulated him, Camilla continued, that I seduced him, that it was all my fault. She laughed bitterly. Classic Derek, right? Let me guess, he promised to leave me for you? Multiple times. She wiped away a tear. God, I was so stupid. The barista called out another order, making us both jump. For a moment, we sat in silence, two women connected by the same man's betrayal. I'm sorry, she finally said. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I am truly sorry. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Sarah, my realtor. Offer came in on the house, full asking price. Looking at the message, then at Camilla, I felt an unexpected sense of closure. We both deserve better, I said simply. She nodded, standing up. I'm leaving tonight. Please, don't tell him about the baby. Not yet. I won't, I promised. Take care of yourself, Camilla. After she left, I called Caitlin. You'll never believe what just happened. Tell me over dinner, she said. We're all meeting at that new place downtown to celebrate your divorce, Edward's treat. 2 hours later, I sat surrounded by my support system. Edward, Caitlin, Scarlett, and even my parents had driven in for the occasion. To new beginnings, Edward toasted, raising his glass. And good riddance to bad rubbish, my father added, making everyone laugh. My phone lit up again, Derek's sister this time. He's a mess, Anne. Please talk to him. I turned my phone face down just as Scarlett gasped, staring at her own screen. Oh my God, Anne, you need to see this. She handed me her phone, open to a local news website. The headline made my heart stop. Prominent law firm partner resigns amid scandal. Multiple women come forward. Holy shit, Caitlin whispered, reading over my shoulder. 3 other women, all clients. The firm's launching a full investigation, Edward read further down. They're saying his license could be suspended. My mother reached for my hand. Are you okay, honey? I thought about Camilla carrying a secret that would change everything. About the house I'd soon be leaving and the new life waiting for me. About the way karma had swept through like a cleansing fire, burning away all of Derek's carefully constructed lies. I'm better than okay, I said, squeezing her hand back. I'm free. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Margaret, Derek's mother. You were right about everything. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. Be happy, dear. So, Scarlett said, pouring more wine, tell us about this beach house you're looking at. As I described my plans for the future, I felt the last weight of my marriage lifting. Derek had taken years of my life, but he wouldn't take another minute. The truth had finally set me free, and I was ready to soar. 3 months after signing the divorce papers, I stood in my empty house for the last time. The moving truck was loaded, and my new beach house waited 2 hours away. Last box, Edward announced, carrying a container labeled Photos. Want me to put it in your car? Wait, I said, opening it. Inside were the remnants of my life with Derek. Wedding photos, vacation snapshots, holiday memories. All lies now. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Derek standing on the porch. Want me to tell him to leave? Edward stepped forward, but I shook my head. No, I need to do this. I opened the door but stayed inside. What do you want, Derek? He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes. I heard you're moving today. News travels fast. Anne, please. He ran his hands through his unkempt hair. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my family's respect. You lost those things because of your choices, I corrected him. Not because of me. I know. He pulled out an envelope. I found these while cleaning out my office. Thought you might want them. Inside were photos I'd never seen. Me laughing at our engagement party, dancing at our wedding, smiling on our first vacation. Happy moments before the lies began. Keep them, I said, handing the envelope back. I'm making new memories now. I heard about Camilla, he said quietly. Why didn't you tell me she was pregnant? It wasn't my secret to tell. I studied his face. How did you find out? Her sister posted about the baby shower on Instagram. He laughed bitterly. I'm going to be a father, and I can't even contact her. Her lawyer said she'll serve me with papers once the baby's born. Good for her, I said firmly. She's protecting her child from what I couldn't protect myself from. Your lies. Edward appeared behind me. Time to go, sis. The new owners will be here in an hour. Derek stepped back, finally seeming to understand this was really the end. I really did love you, Anne. In my way. Your way wasn't good enough. I closed the door, leaving him on the porch of a house that was no longer mine. Edward helped me carry the photo box to my car. You okay? Better than okay, I said, and meant it. Let's go see my new house. 2 hours later, I pulled into the driveway of my beach house to find Caitlin, Scarlett, and my parents waiting with champagne and pizza. Welcome home! They cheered as I stepped out of the car. The house was everything I'd dreamed of. 3 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and most importantly, a perfect view of the ocean. I'd used part of my settlement money to buy it outright. Oh my God, Caitlin squealed, following me inside. It's even better than the photos. Wait till you see this, I said, leading them to the back room. My new office. The room was set up with a desk, computer, and business plans spread across a cork board. After years of putting my dreams on hold, I was finally starting my own event planning company. First client meeting next week, I announced proudly. A wedding, ironically enough. Speaking of weddings, Scarlett said, pulling out her phone. Did you see Lisa's post? She's starting a support group for women who've dealt with unfaithful partners. She wants you to be the guest speaker at their first meeting. Me? I was surprised. Why? Because you didn't just survive, my mother said, hugging me. You thrived. My phone buzzed, a message from Margaret. Thought you should know, Derek's in therapy, finally facing his demons. Thank you for forcing him to see the truth. I showed the message to everyone. Looks like the karma train keeps rolling. Good, Edward said, opening the champagne. Now, how about we focus on your future instead of his past? We gathered on the porch, watching the sunset over the ocean. The breeze carried away the last whispers of my old life, bringing in the salty promise of new beginnings. To Anne, Caitlin toasted, who turned betrayal into triumph. And to Karma, Scarlett added with a wink. May she always be this effective. As my family and friends laughed and celebrated around me, I felt profound gratitude. Derek had tried to dim my light for years, but in the end, he'd only made it shine brighter. My phone buzzed one last time, an email confirming my business license approval. I smiled, looking out at the waves. The past was finally behind me, and the future. It was as vast and full of possibilities as the ocean before me. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the contract for my biggest event yet, a charity gala for domestic abuse survivors. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed, a text from Lisa. Support groups packed again. Your story inspired another woman to leave her cheating husband. You're changing lives. A knock on my door interrupted my reply. Caitlin walked in, carrying 2 coffee cups and wearing her I have gossip expression. You're not going to believe what happened, she said, setting down my coffee. Derek showed up at Scarlett's house this morning. I straightened in my chair. What did he want? To apologize. Apparently, his therapy is big on making amends. She sat down across from me. He's been going door to door in the old neighborhood, apologizing to everyone he hurt. Wow. I took a sip of coffee. Did Scarlett accept? She told him to donate to the women's shelter instead, said actions speak louder than words. My computer pinged. An email from Camilla. I'd been expecting this one. She had the baby, I told Caitlin, reading quickly. A boy. She's letting Derek have supervised visits if he continues therapy. Are you okay with that? It's not my decision to make. I closed the email. Besides, I'm too busy to worry about Derek's redemption arc. As if on cue, Edward burst in, waving his tablet. You're trending again, sis. The article's headline read, From Betrayed Wife to Business Success. How One Woman's Revenge Story Sparked a Movement. They want to interview you for a documentary, Edward said excitedly, about empowering women to recognize and leave toxic relationships. I was about to respond when Margaret's name flashed on my phone. Derek's mother had become an unexpected ally these past months. "Anne, dear," she said when I answered, "I'm having coffee with some friends, and, well, there's someone here who needs to hear your story. Would you mind stopping by?" I looked at my calendar. The afternoon was clear. "Text me the address." An hour later, I walked into a small cafe to find Margaret sitting with a young woman who couldn't have been more than 25. Her eyes were red from crying. "This is Rachel," Margaret said softly. "Her fiancé. Well, perhaps you should tell her yourself." Rachel's story poured out between sobs. The other woman, the gaslighting, the manipulation. It was like looking in a mirror of my past. "I don't know what to do," she finished. "I love him, but love shouldn't hurt." I completed her thought. Love shouldn't make you doubt yourself. I pulled out my business card and wrote Lisa's support group details on the back. "You're not alone, and you're stronger than you think." Rachel clutched the card like a lifeline. "Did it get easier after you left?" "It got better," I said honestly, "which is more important than easier." My phone buzzed, a reminder for my meeting with the documentary producers. As I stood to leave, Rachel grabbed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me it's possible to start over." Driving back to my office, I thought about all the women like Rachel, trapped in webs of lies and manipulation. My phone rang through the car speakers. Scarlett. "Derek's outside your office," she warned. "Says he needs to tell you something important." I found him sitting on the steps, holding a thick envelope. He stood when he saw me. "I signed away my parental rights," he said without preamble. "To my son. Camilla's right. I'm not ready to be a father." "That's surprisingly self-aware of you." "Therapy," he shrugged. "I'm learning to face my truths instead of creating new lies." He handed me the envelope. "This is for your charity gala. Anonymous donation." Inside was a cashier's check for a substantial amount. "Why?" "Because you were right. About everything." He stepped back. "I'll never be able to undo what I did, but I can try to help others avoid my mistakes." I watched him walk away, realizing I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, just peaceful indifference. My phone buzzed again. Rachel had already signed up for Lisa's support group. Back in my office, I added the anonymous donation to the gala budget, then opened my laptop to work on my documentary interview notes. On my desk, a framed quote caught the sunlight: "The truth shall set you free." I smiled, remembering the scared, doubting woman I'd been, and feeling grateful for the strong, confident person I'd become. Derek's betrayal hadn't destroyed me, it had revealed me, and that revelation had become my revolution.